What's going on, everybody? Welcome to your weekly astrology forecast for the week of May 24th through the 30th of 2021. Brian here, Fixed Air Moon, keeping the collective fixed on astrology. So grateful that you're joining me here on YouTube. If you enjoy this content, please do consider becoming a member on the website, fixedairmoon.com, for daily horoscopes, where I go into these charts much deeper, and weekly sun rising horoscopes, a tarot show, and it's a good time over there. So join over there. If not, super grateful that you are taking the time out of your day whenever you choose to watch this to tune in here. Well, 2021, it's been a year already. There's been a lot of heavy energy. We went through a ton of Aquarius energy early in the year. We've had Saturn, Uranus square off. Mars left Aries after a long time there. So we've been going through a lot of energy already, and I think that in the grand scheme of things, we haven't seen anything yet. And these eclipses that we're stepping into with the total lunar eclipse in Sagittarius on Wednesday is really, the true kickoff of where 2021's going. So definitely reaching some peak out energy when it comes just to what we're feeling. And really with this lunar eclipse in Sagittarius, like, it's all about the beliefs, like our individual beliefs, our collective beliefs. And let's not forget, like, this lunar eclipse is really in a T-square to Jupiter in Pisces. So a mutable T-square. This is like your whole story changing. This is on an individual level. This is like the story that you tell yourself, just boop, bloop, bloop, changing. Like, where's it going? Where was it going in the past? That does not have any signification for where it's going now. So we want to be mutable. We want to be interchangeable. We want to be able to, really trust in a bigger calling. I would say this T-square to Jupiter is like, especially with Jupiter in Pisces and being the dispositor of the South Node, where the moon's at for this lunar eclipse, it's like there's so many big picture beliefs changing, but we almost have to dissolve what we thought was possible, what we thought was real, and really like tune into energetically where things are going, and be open to change our minds about ourselves, about the world. We got to sort of switch things up here. So this is definitely a time to switch gears, change lanes. What we thought was the ultimate belief or the ultimate faith may turn out not to be, and it's a divine change. And I think this is very karmic, especially with the South Node for this lunar eclipse. Like, we're feeling karmic stories dissolve away into new stories. So where's that story going for you? You'll have to find out for yourself. If you want to know maybe what that looks like for your sun or rising sign, join fixedairmoon.com. I go into that for all 12 signs on there. We also see a Mercury retrograde in Gemini, its home sign. We got the sun in Gemini. Venus is in Gemini. Venus is finishing up where it retrograded last year in Gemini. Venus is also squaring Neptune. Mercury's going to come back and square Neptune. So there's a lot of Neptunian, Jupiterian vibes that we're feeling right now. It can almost feel unreal in some ways, or like very illusionary. So how do we ground that energy? That's a good question. I think we ground it by being open to, believe what's truly possible, and to not get stuck. We don't want to be stuck. And I think the beginning of this week does help us like release sort of stuck energy to be able to go on this new journey, to go on this new story, because that's ultimately what this lunar eclipse is opening up. And it's more about your inner world, especially with the moon there. Like, how do you feel about going on this new journey, taking in new philosophy about yourself, about your mind? There's a lot connected to the mind. It's at 5 degrees of Sagittarius, 5 degrees of Gemini with the sun. So lots going on mentally. This is like your higher mind and your lower mind trying to synchronize into sort of the ultimate karmic resolution to more of a story of your dharma, of your more of a spiritual mission, more of a cosmically connected mission in a lot of ways too. So big energy there. We're going to see the sun making a semi-square to Mars this week in Cancer. Mars is going to work on a trine over to Neptune in Pisces. So we're seeing this falled out Mars here this week, also in interesting aspects. The semi-square to the sun, these are two defining planets. We're seeing some interesting stuff here. Like, there's almost this like sort of blind spot that we know we have to really get comfortable and act on our intuition and act on where we feel emotionally called to. And then at the same time, we're getting this Mercury retrograde where the mind's like starting to recalculate and refigure out and analyze so many parts of your environment, your connections, just how you think. And I think a lot of it comes back to yourself. And like, we're definitely trying to root into ourselves and find some sense of, you could say some sense of normal these days. And fact of the matter is, this isn't a time to, look for what's normal. This is a time to just feel good inside yourself so that you can rewrite some story that's going to be more, it's going to ultimately be better. It's going to take you out of some crazy mental anxiety. There's a lot of anxious energy this week too. So it's a lot, and we're going to see. We got Uranus at 12 degrees now, so Uranus is sort of just trying to open up all the doors to the best physical world we can have, but it's unpredictable change to get there. So there's more of this unpredictable, element, but it is through the unpredictability that we can find the abundance. So I think the more mutable you can be, open to change this week, open to see where the story can take you without holding on to what was, because what was, it's not the now anymore. It's not the future anymore. That was just an old past story of where you were going. What are we opening up to? So interesting too. And we'll see Chiron come to 12 degrees of Aries too. So big shifts there. A lot of 3 energy too, which is very Jupiter. I think we're healing our ego in a lot of ways, and that could be related to the sun and Mars in semi-square as well, where we're really like learning how to understand how we truly feel about ourselves and what can ground us and root us so that we can, make the most out of this reality and have a story that we ultimately, maybe, there could be some fear to jump into, but at the same time, there's abundance in the unknown. And I think that that's a good way to look at it, is what you haven't experienced yet. You don't know if the abundance is there or not. And there could be extreme healing when it comes to our egos and when it comes to what we can push forward with and what we can create. And, really, I think a lot of it comes back to how we feel about ourselves. And it is about that feeling of self that can rewrite a pretty amazing story for you this week. So let's take a look at the charts, jump into the week, and see what's up. So Monday, which is today, of course, when I'm recording this. This is a little bit before when I'm recording. Oh, that's not the pen I wanted. So this chart's for 11:30 on the West Coast. But nonetheless, we're going to see this moon in Scorpio. And, the moon in Scorpio is, I'll be honest, with Mars in Cancer, it really does help it out. And it gives it more of a deep dive to like find emotional courage, I would say, and to like be introspective for ultimately what needs to be released. Monday is a day of like, it's a good precursor to this this full moon lunar eclipse that we're getting on Wednesday, because it's going to oppose Uranus and it's going to really T-square over to Saturn. So this is like, if you want to have the best in life, you got to make some radical change, like within yourself, and detach and let go of, and make sure that you're only connecting to what's great in life. And I think that it comes down with Saturn being the focal point of the T-square. It's like, you got to boss up and make a big call for yourself. Like, what are you connecting to? Are you connecting to the greatness? The sun's at 3 degrees. Like, the doors want to open up, but you have to be like responsible for where you're putting your energy. And I think it's not about the old. It's not about sort of the old baggage. Like, this is a time to like drop the old baggage. Like, that's saying like the camel won't fit through the needle's eye. Like, it won't. Like, you gotta like make sure that you're only taking what feels intimately connected to your soul, to you, and like your abundance and your understanding of where things can go. So I think Monday's a very, it's kind of a heavy day, but it's going to show us, very clearly, like through synchronicities and signs, like where were you putting in work that didn't make sense, like especially with Saturn retrograde now, like what you might have put in some work in a few places, but you weren't getting a payout. You weren't getting, the ultimate connection to that energy. I think that this is where you really have to learn to let go. And with that Moon in Scorpio, you can want to obsess. And we don't want to obsess over sort of the old story. That's why I say it's a good precursor to the lunar eclipse on Wednesday, because we're starting to get rid of old baggage, old stories, old beliefs. And this is where you're really trying to disconnect from old stories that no longer serve, and then really like rise up with inner strength and authority for the ultimate connections that are showing themselves, and the universe is showing you that there can be some big, powerful things brought into your life that were meant to be worked on and meant to be built into your future. And we see Venus at 19 degrees, and it's really finishing up where it retrograded in Gemini last year, and it's starting to approach on the square to Neptune. So there's definitely energy here of like, what did you figure out about relationships? What truths? Where was the twin-like energy? And what about, too, like when it comes to like your feel-good energy with Venus, like what really was bringing feel-good energy into your immediate life and what wasn't? And like those are the things that I think you have to like, you don't want to just get all like kind of lost and like spaced out with the square building to Neptune. Like you really want to hunker down and focus on what wasn't working. Like if it wasn't working, it wasn't working. Like that's sort of what Monday's about. It's like the universe is going to show you with a bunch of synchronicities today what what was working, what was giving you the gifts in life, and what wasn't. And I think you have to have this inner courage today. We see Mars and the Moon, they're sharing reception. So both in fall position are making a great score, which is rare. And I think that's one of the upsides to having Mars in fall position in Cancer. I got to take a drink of water. I've been recording all morning. Excuse me. But that reception really helps out, and I think it gives us emotional courage to detach, to let go. And Uranus is saying you can't obsess over what isn't the best in life for yourself, what isn't individuating, what isn't showing you the better way forward in your reality. Like, don't hold on to that stuff. It's not the connection. It's not showing you where the future's going and the payout in life. And you kind of got to be on divine time. You got to see where these synchronicities are showing you. And Venus square Neptune's interesting too, because it can be extremely beautiful. These are like two heart chakra related energies squaring off. So they're looking at each other like dead in the eye. It's like, are you stepping into the relationships that are of the ultimate universal beauty? Are you treating yourself like you're ultimately beautiful and valuable and connected? And I think this is where the universe shows you different aspects in life that you got to release those stories where maybe you weren't telling yourself how amazing you are, or fully understanding how beautiful you are, or the relationships in your life that are beautiful and are bringing twin-like energy. Those have to be appreciated too, and not just looked over. So there's a sense of like trying to find appreciation that we're stepping into as well on this Monday. We'll go to Tuesday here. Tuesday, we're going to see the sun move to 4 degrees of Gemini. So it gets a little wild. Like Tuesday's wild energy, it's right before the, last day before the lunar eclipse. Like we are definitely in a place of feeling erratic, all over the place. There's a high electrical energy in the air, if you will. What's it trying to show you, and how can you make some sense of it so that you can sort of, make these final detachments? And the moon here in Scorpio is going to trine Neptune, and it's going to, early in the morning, trine Mars. So there's almost this grand trine energy between, kind of loose grand trine, but still grand trine energy between Mars, the moon, and Neptune. And Mars is in a weird position with this too, because it's like you have to be acting on your intuition. Like you have these two very highly intuitive planets being the moon and Neptune, very spiritual with Neptune, and really like, what is possible in this universe, and how can I connect to that without, being too delusional about what I'm trying to connect to. And also ultimately, like, what is the most passionate thing to you? And like, are you acting on those things that are passionate? Or are you just holding on to what isn't bringing you feel good energy or what isn't bringing you the best? And I think that, that it's a powerful day Tuesday where there's this erratic energy that's trying to show you like your stability within yourself and how you change that story and how you go deep and find your inner authority is everything. And the moon's also going to sextile over to Pluto um, on Tuesday as well. So there's definitely like, there's things leaving. It's just Monday and Tuesday are like, especially Tuesday, I would say, there's like a portal to things are leaving in life. Don't obsess over what's on its way out. You probably have felt these things take place over the last couple weeks. Like whatever's taking off, it was meant to go. Let it go. Let it drift away into the ether with the trine to Neptune. Like don't stress about it. These are harmonious aspects, but they're still like trying to say like, look, the harmony is in the release. The harmony is in the surrender, especially with the moon and Neptune in trine in these water signs. Like you got to let things die off. That's just a part of Scorpio. It's a part of our reality. Nothing in life that you thought was the ultimate or the best or the most comfortable thing in life is going to be there forever. Everything dies in life. And then there's rebirth. And then that's the cycle. And so what's leaving is dying away. And that's good because that's forcing you out of the old story and into the new story and into the flow. And I think that there's so much about the flow right now because there's so much change that's taking place as we come into this mutable T-square lunar eclipse. The change is inevitable and we have to be willing to go through that. And we have to be, find that inner power, strength, and authority to let go of things and not obsess over what we thought was the most comfortable or what we thought was, the way things were going to be forever, because that will only leave you disappointed. And with Mercury coming to 24 degrees, where it's going to station retrograde, we look at Mercury, it is 19 minutes a day, like slow Mercury. So, very interesting. Things are just really, the mind almost has to slow down so that it can understand where the synchronicities and the universe is trying to pull you. And it's erratic energy today, or on this Tuesday, I should say, where like the unseen or the unpredictable is actually going to show up and say, hey, are you going to make a big, accelerated choice to move into some form of better in life, some form of more strength within yourself, more rooted security. And I think that that's, a big, I think that's at least just a good way to look at it if, from my perspective. And, we really do start to see the sun at 4 degrees and Mars here. And I'll erase some of this so you can see. They're in semi-square. 45 degrees. So that 45-degree angle is very, it's very interesting. It's obviously, half a square. It's not harmonious. But we can kind of, they're almost a blind spot. You almost can't see it. Kind of like a semi-sextile at 30 degrees. But there's this energy of like, we are defining and understanding new parts of how we can root into our ego, how we can root into our own security. But it's so much like inside of us. And we've had so much in our personal, signs of the zodiac right now. And Aries, Taurus, Gemini, and Cancer, very personal. And even Leo and Virgo, they're more on that personal side of the zodiac, where everything from Libra to Pisces gets more outer. So like we're really, trying to rewrite the stories of what we believe about ourselves in the midst of, a ton of change that's coming in the world too. Like lunar eclipse in Sag is definitely world, foreign change. So it's here we are. It's interesting energy, but the semi-square is like, can you understand, your how you're emotionally driven, and are you finding comfort in your inner power, in your inner strength? Because that inner strength is what's going to help you get through any uncertainty or any any erratic, wild changes that do possibly find you as an individual or just manifest with the collective. Wednesday, this is the solar eclipse chart, the exact chart. It's a big one. 4:13 a.m. on the West Coast. So if you're on the West Coast, you could probably catch this, at least the peak or the apex of this in the morning before the sun rises, right over sort of where the sun would set would be where the solar eclipse would be getting ready to set. Powerful. 5 degrees away from the North Node, at 5 degrees. The sun's at 5 degrees of Gemini, which is a master degree of Gemini. Like, this is all about your understanding of your story. And it's changing because we're in mutable signs here. And there's a T square. And I love that Jupiter's at 111. Like, which makes a 3, which is Jupiter. There's a lot of abundance in the change and in the mutability right now. And I think that that's, one of the best things about this is that there is these divine synchronicities, call it, coincidence or synchronicity, right? But I think the more mutable you are and the more willing you are to rewrite the story, I think you already can see that your story's changing. You can already feel that your story's changing. So don't stay in the old. Like, that's the karma of the South Node. Like, if you try and use your free will to flex on the universe during this lunar eclipse and like say, no, I'm staying in the old story I was in before, you're going to find that the universe is going to outflex you. And that's where Uranus at 12 degrees of Taurus is going to blow up unpredictability in your reality. And like, it's going to, the universe will flex. Like, and it's about to. It's like our reality is about to get flexed on. But I think, if we have our inner understanding, if we have our inner truth, if we have our inner security and that warrior within ourselves, this is great, but you still have to change. You still have to, be like, yep, I see the signs to go into this new story. You want to go into that story. Don't stay in the old story. That would be the trap of this lunar eclipse, because those old stories are going to come up big time. Like, there's going to be more and more of the old stories that are going to try and like rear up and try and keep you in that sort of South Node Sag energy, when right now we got to change up. We got to switch up the big story, the cosmic, sort of story that we thought we were living. Where's it really going? And pretty big energy. So definitely by Wednesday, you're going to wake up Wednesday morning and be like, fully feel like a new story is being written for you. And that's where you do have free will. And, you can try and stay in the old as long as you want. But I think that the beginning of the week was trying to show you, like, yeah, there's change coming. There's things that have to be let go of and disconnected to so that you can connect to the new story. Like, are you going to connect to the new story and open up to that belief? And are you willing to make sort of a big change that's almost like just a surrender? Like, the change is in the surrender with Jupiter and Pisces. Like, to dissolve that old chapter, to dissolve those old beliefs and step into the new ones that you've been feeling. And this can go, about so many different areas in life, right? Like, it could be the belief that the job you were in was everything for the rest of your life. And it's not. The relationship that you thought was the end all be all, the one that was going to take you, to the end. Like, it wasn't. Like, the car that you just bought that's going to be maybe the last car you ever buy, it wasn't. So there's a lot of stories we tell ourselves in so many aspects of reality. And these stories, the ones that I would say we were so sure of and almost like, this is the most stable belief in my life, it's likely those are the ones that are going to change. And maybe you felt that already, but for some it could be a little bit more, it could be not so dramatic, if you will, of course. But ultimately, this is connecting our higher mind and our lower mind to try and find a sense of harmony. And Venus is going to come to 21 degrees and start to approach on the conjunction with Mercury. Like, we have to really understand what makes us truly feel good and connected right now. And I think it's all about the truth. It's all about how we put both sides together. Five's right in the middle. So we need to see both sides of everything. There's a lot of duality. There's a lot of change. We don't want to get stuck on one side or the other. We gotta, hold your truth. Stand in your truth 100%, but be willing to change up the truth if some really, big stuff make a lot of sense to you. And that comes back to, your own story, right? That you're changing. So definitely interesting. And Mars enters that third decan and is only 2 degrees away from that trine over to Jupiter. So especially, also for that lunar eclipse, like we're getting Mars in that third decan where it's like you're really feeling, where you're not grounded, where you're not rooted into your body, I would say. And it's like a lot of it's like the divine's really trying to show the way, and it's that inner feeling that's, should be acted upon. But Mars and Neptune, even in trine, like it's not easy for Mars dealing with Neptune. It's so watery and it's very emotional and it's very sensitive. So, honestly, this is a lunar eclipse where like sensitivities are extremely high, and people around you, might be projecting their own emotional state of not understanding where their story's going. And I would say, as maybe somebody who's trying to practice sort of a higher level of consciousness or understanding or compassion, like to let people sort of have their moment of trying to figure out where their emotions are taking them, because this is heavy energy, and people, don't always want to make changes, right? So kind of have to like be strong in yourself and let if you're going through a lot, you're going to get through it, be mutable, but other people need to be mutable too, and they might not want to. So you have to try not to judge them and try not to force things. I would say the best thing to do is not to force things, because it's the things you're forcing. Those are the things that weren't working anyways, and they're broken, and you can't fix everything, because we're on to a new story. This is Wednesday's chart as well, just in the daytime. And I think, as we come into the day, we're going to see the moon really meet up with that south node. Like, you can get comfortable in the old story. I don't think it's going to play out well moving forward, but even after this lunar eclipse, you could be like, oh yeah, that story's still there. And I'm just going to patch it up and put it together. And, maybe that works for a day. But this isn't, lunar eclipse energy isn't just full moon energy. Like this energy lingers for a while. And it trines over to Chiron. So I think that, being able to find your divinity and your healing is something that's going to ultimately help you with whatever story you're moving into in life, or whatever beliefs might be changing about yourself and how you understand that. And ultimately, Chiron at 11 degrees it's finishing up there too. It's going to come to 12 degrees. Like, we're finding so much healing in our heart, in our ego, and how we're, I think we're really healing a lot of masculine energy within us all. We all have feminine, masculine energy, positive, negative, whatever you want to call it. I think that Chiron's really trying to, heal up masculine energy, so that we can use our ego for the right reasons, and use it to not only, help others, but really to heal ourselves and to find our own empowerment and encouragement of what we're trying to do. And I think that's a nice aspect that we see on Wednesday after the eclipse. And then that moon, it kind of just, it doesn't do much. Like, it does it doesn't quite get to Venus, and it does make a quincunx to Uranus. So there's a level of uncertainty, of course, after the lunar eclipse, and it's heavy energetically. And, I think that you're going to have a chance to throw yourself up into the sky and take almost like a leap of faith for, what's going to be the better story in your life. And then you're also going to feel like you're getting beat down, energetically in a sense too, or, it's sensitive too with the trine to Chiron. Like, are you sensitive in your ego right now? Do you not feel like it's working out, like things are going good? Otherwise, I pretty much talked about that energy. So we'll move to Thursday. Oh, I did want to show you too for that lunar eclipse. Jupiter rules the day. I mean, Mercury too, +8. So Jupiter and Mercury, like I said, higher mind, lower mind. Jupiter beats out Saturn for the first time since Jupiter in Sagittarius in like 2017. So just saying, like, this is a great time to change beliefs. The abundance is in the change. The abundance is in the faith to move into new stories and to mentally grasp that without putting yourself into a place of like major anxiety. And then Jupiter Day, it's funny too. We get to Jupiter Day and it's like Jupiter goes to +5 and Saturn goes to +10. Like Saturn gets this big bump up. Because of triplicity and, a bunch of Hellenistic stuff like that. But so Saturn's definitely playing a big role. And Uranus too, like we got to remember, like not necessarily pertinent to Thursday's horoscope, but Uranus is approaching Saturn now because Saturn is stopped and Uranus is still moving fast. So we are starting to see crazy changes again, like unpredictable changes in our reality, in our structures, in our governments. And this is where, I think if you hold the same belief system that you've always had, you're going to be in a very strange place and feel very sort of outcasted and alienated within your own mind, that's not a good place to feel outcasted or alienated. But we're going to see the moon come into these later degrees of Sagittarius on Thursday. It's going to square off with Neptune. And I think that, that's bringing like divine intervention in many ways. And it's really a T-square because we're getting Venus, which is squaring exactly to Neptune, and the moon's going to oppose Venus. So there's this T-square to Neptune where it's like there are things that just had to dissolve. There are just things that had to go. They spiritually were not meant to be a part of the story. They didn't make sense anymore. They weren't part of the new story. They didn't make sense. It comes down to relationships. It comes down to your own feelings. And I think that this is where, Thursday is one of those days where, especially with the sun at 6 degrees, like you want to be in a really feel-good place. You want to really have this feel-good understanding. But the understandings, ultimately, I think this shows that the best understanding is in the divine. It's in your spirituality. And if your relationships and your emotions can come back to the ultimate connection to the universe and to your own inner standing of that connection, you're going to have it's going to make the most sense. And there is sense being made with Venus approaching Neptune, and Venus coming out of the period where it went retrograde in Gemini as well. Like this is like off to the new races of understanding what are the right relationships in life and what are not the right relationships in life. Where's the twin-like energy that was divinely meant to be there and what wasn't? So this is why I'm saying like that lunar eclipse is going to show, like, especially with relationships. Eclipses are hard for relationships anyways. A lot of people break up during, if your relationship wasn't going well, eclipses are like the icing on the cake, like can't do it anymore. And I think too, when you look at where Venus is at right now, it's like if there wasn't a divine connection, if it wasn't meant to be, like they just served a purpose in the old story, they're not meant for the new and exciting story that you're about to go on. And I think there's something that we really come into an understanding of that by Thursday, because we want to feel good on Thursday. We want to, go into the unknown, I think. And I think the better we feel about ourselves mentally and emotionally, the easier it's just going to be to surrender to where the universe is going and be on that ride. Like that ride's not bad. It's actually less stressful when you just surrender to the flow and focus on the things that are presenting themselves to you. So all the stuff that you have done, what's paying out, what's showing up, what relationships are showing up, which ones actually bring harmony and feel good energy into your life. Go that way. Stop playing the other game, which is like simple in theory, right? But not always that simple. Friday, Venus Day, The sun is at 7 degrees. I think that, this is sort of a dreamy, sort of, spiritually introspective Friday. And Venus is the planetary day, and Neptune is ruling the sun's degree. So we just, came off Venus and Neptune in square. And it's like, did you listen to the divine synchronicities about partnerships and relationships? And Venus is conjunct Neptune. I'm sorry, Venus is conjunct Mercury. Like, do you understand the connections in life? Do you understand like where changes need to be made to have better energy come into your world right now? What's close to you? So it's like the universe is trying to show you twin-like energy, but it's also going to show you like what isn't twin-like energy. It's going to show you the polar opposites, right? Gemini, like duality, what was good, what was bad, and then this is where you like have to spiritually discern where these paths are taking you, where things are going. But I think ultimately it's a pretty dreamy day, and that moon comes into Capricorn, and it's going to trine Uranus. So it does also sextile Jupiter right when it comes in, which would be late Thursday night. So there's definitely some feel good energy. If we're putting the right bricks, if we're laying the right bricks for our future and the new story and the new sort of life that we're building with the right people, with the universe, there's some major sort of spiritual abundance that could find you, and it could be very, definitely a little foggy. But I think at the same time, like, there's just a major light that comes through the fog. And even with the moon in detriment in Capricorn, it's like, are you building your connection with the universe better and with the aspects of life that are trying to take you higher for a better reality? So it's like there's like this very electric pull towards a more divine connection. And are you ready to go in that? And then Mars, getting really close to its trine over to Neptune and coming off the semi-square to the sun. So I feel like we're also like kind of freeing ourselves from like these old sort of emotional, wounds that are holding us back or not letting us feel truly comfortable in our body and illuminate fully and in our heart. So it's like we had to, kind of figure that out. And I think that, divine intervention finds us on Friday to show us where the beauty lies, to show us where we want to start building and working in the future for the new abundance, for the new gifts that are trying to show themselves. Saturday, we get the sun. I put this chart at 334 because it has Chiron at 12 degrees, because I don't think Chiron moved. Yeah, Chiron moved late Friday night. So we have Chiron that ingresses. Oh, this is actually when Mercury goes retrograde. How funny. Okay, so Mercury goes retrograde at 3:34 p.m. Saturday, the 29th. So we get this Mercury retrograde in Gemini. Again, this is rewriting our mind. This is rewriting how we think about ourselves and how we think about the world and how we think about the people in our communities and just overall duality in general. And it's crazy that on the 10th for the solar eclipse, we get a Mercury Cazimi. So we get the sun, Mercury, the moon, and the earth all in perfect alignment. Like we are, our whole thought process of how we understand and objectively figure out what we're doing is getting rewritten with these eclipses. And it's all about first of all, it's about our story that we tell ourselves, and then it's about how we act that new story out and how we integrate that new truth. And I think that this Mercury retrograde is bringing that out in a big way, and it's going to have us really rethink so much of the stuff that we thought we had objectively figured out already. So we don't have everything figured out yet. We're just kind of along for the ride. And that sun at 8 degrees on Saturn day is definitely asking us to really focus on what structures we are building as that moon finishes up in Capricorn and conjuncts Pluto exactly for the Mercury retrograde. So, and it will oppose Mars in the morning. So there's like a interesting pull, like for our emotions and how we're acting and how we're thinking and the relationships that we're taking part of. And it's quincunx Mercury and Mercury's quincunxing Pluto. There's just old energy that doesn't feel good anymore, that's dying off, and it might feel a little weird because it's like we could have been, really planted in that. But I think now we have to get serious about where the new, like I said, this week's all about the new story. So this is where like Saturday comes about, and you're like, wow, I really do need to get serious about where these things are going, because I think you're going to start to see the abundance. And the moon yesterday did square off with Chiron before it came into um, before it came to the 12th degree, which that 12th degree is another abundant degree for Chiron. So I think we're going to start to see the abundance and the gifts in the wounds that we have healed within our ego. And it is a 1 and a 2, so it's like I feel. So how do you truly feel about yourself? Do you feel good about yourself? Because that's great for the new story. Do you not feel good about yourself? That's great too, because it's showing you what parts of the old story need to go away and dissolve and dissipate so that the real healing can happen and take place. So especially with the opposition from Mars and the moon that we get on Saturday, it's like you got to get serious about how you're feeling. Does it bring an ultimate structure and security into your life? And does it feel like it's going to help you hit goals for this new journey? Or are you just holding on to things and acting on things that are making you feel out of alignment with your own self, with your own emotions, with your own state of being? And we're also going to see the sun sextile Neptune from Capricorn too. So definitely it's sensitive energy on Saturday, but it's almost like you have to sort of disconnect from the sensitivities and like get back to what's real, and like get back to what is going to make things better, and what's going to progress you in the direction you want to go, and what's going to help you, connect to your true warrior within yourself and those true feelings. And it's like that spiritual warrior, not just a warrior, but like, where are you going on your divine path? And does it make sense? And if it doesn't make sense, you got to get serious about trying to figure out some way to have an inner standing mentally or emotionally about what's going. And, the moon on Pluto, like this is more of that energy of like, really, you got to let go of shit that wasn't for the best, wasn't for the future. Like, you can't hold on to that anymore. And we're going to see Mars exactly this weekend by Sunday, exactly trine Neptune. So we have that whole build up all week, and we really start to feel it, where you're either paralyzed or you're just divinely guided and you're acting divinely into the new story, and that's where you're getting serious, or you're in a very strange foggy place. So there's Saturday's weird because we want to be structured and get things done, but it's Saturday, and I feel like people are just going to kind of escape into la la land and not like focus on the new story. That's super important, and like the divine's pulling you towards. Sunday, we get that moon that does come into Aquarius. It will meet up with Saturn, and it will trine the sun. And the sun will be 1 degree away from the north node. So, like, the big win in life right now is your individual truth and how you objectify your environment and how you see both sides. How do you get through duality right now? Are you just judging everything? Are you just, one side's the only way forward? One side is the only way, the good way, the bad way? Like, I think this is where you have to bridge some sort of gap within yourself to release that story that's out there. But does it have to be what you put all your focus in and what you connect to? And I would say that the sun here in trine to the moon is going to really help, really objectify and like step out of our emotions for a second to be like, oh, wow, like, I can kind of see where that other side's coming from because I found my security. I found my guidance. And I have my own inner world playing that's all I need. Like, I don't need the world, or I don't need somebody else to tell me that whatever. Like, everybody's allowed to have their own truth. And I think that this week's a good opportunity to step into that story within ourselves of like, look, everybody's going to have a difference of opinions. Nobody's living the same life. I mean, we see some things, that appear to be the same, but nobody's experiencing life the same. So how can we sort of disconnect, look for win-wins in life by Sunday, and it is the sun's day, and the sun will be at 9 degrees. Like, we got to take action for what's better and what's moving us into the future, and the where you want to put the work in and where you don't. If you don't want to put the work in, you don't have to. That's where you can individuate and disconnect. So you don't have to take on other people's beliefs or opinions or truths. But you know what? You can entertain it. Like, you could listen to it. Maybe there's something good there. And even if it pulls up a trigger, I think that Sunday would be a good day, like, where if you get triggered, like, that's a great sign of showing you what parts of yourself need to be looked at by yourself, so that you can figure out why that triggers you and move into a better place within yourself. And the moon's going to square Uranus. So it's high electric, high energetic day, especially emotionally. Like, we kind of want to disconnect a little bit from emotions, but at the same time, it's like you have to connect your emotions to what's the best with Uranus and Taurus. What is making you feel like you're reaching higher, reaching further, and making the best changes possible for yourself. And if you're not, you're going to get zapped. Like, this is one of those days where it's like, you're going to get zapped. And Mars will finish off the day in that exact trine to Neptune. And then we get Venus come to 26 degrees in quincunx to Pluto. Exactly. So again, we're seeing, like, relationships that weren't meant to be start to dissolve because they were part of the old story again. And we have to, like, understand that that's okay to move in a new direction. It's okay to change. And I think ultimately, even on Sunday, like, you kind of have to learn to disconnect and make a change. And Uranus square the moon with the moon trining the sun is like, you have to make it. There's change. It's unpredictable. Life is unpredictable. And the only comfort you're going to find is in your own understanding of your own truth and your own sovereignty and how you act upon your own guidance that you receive. And that's where the true gift lies. And that's really where the week takes us. It's a big week. Like, you're going to realize so many stories in your life that are starting to change and shift and mutate. And there's a lot of mutation going on out there right now. So what parts of your life are mutating? And are they mutating in a direction that you've already been progressing towards and the connections there? Keep going. Keep making that your truth. But if you're pushing in a direction that isn't working, this is a week where it's very important that you understand how to switch, change, mutate yourself to what's going to make you feel better. You don't have to live a story of self-doubt or, that's the old story too. Like, self-doubt, not thinking you're good enough to manifest, not thinking you're good enough to make things happen in your life. You are good enough. And I think that this week is a big, test to see if you can release that story and disconnect from that paradigm even, and come into a new one where you can rewrite a beautiful new story that hopefully changes your individual life for the better. That doesn't mean that it's just going to start off better, but that means that, what shows itself right now is very divinely orchestrated to show you how to have better. But you have to be able to see both sides and objectify that without just saying, "Oh, I'm still in this story," and throwing some sort of pity party, because there's anxiety in the air. There's a lot. So if you're feeling down or out, like, look at the signs. Look at why you're feeling that way, and those triggers, they'll show you everything you would possibly need to move into a better place. But ultimately, it comes down to the individual to make those choices. The choices change. The choice is the new story. The old story is going to get really weird. And there's going to be a lot that's going to try and suck you back into that South Node in Sag and that old story too. So you have to be able to disconnect from that. And Saturn retrograde in Aquarius is really teaching us that. How do you disconnect from structures in life that no longer serve your frequency? It's a big week. I love you all so much. Yeah. I guess that's it. Shout out to Christopher Witecki for his step astrology, his numerology with the planets. I love it. I've been incorporating it for a while now. Shout out to the Leo King for always dropping a ton of truth astrologically. And even Robert Phoenix. Love all those astrologers, and they all inspire me in different ways. So I just want to give a shout out to those three for all that they do for the collective. And gosh, sending you all my best, sending you all my love. Find that story that's divinely being brought into your life, and the ones that aren't making sense anymore, you don't have to try and figure those out. You don't have to keep putting your energy in. It's time to leave that story behind. Lunar eclipses are a time of change. This is your whole belief structure and what you thought was possible mentally, intuitively, emotionally, physically. Here we are. Let's go. We're in 2020 officially now, or it's 2021. So where's it going to take us? Where's it going to go? We'll have to find out, but it's going to be a wild ride. That is for sure. So how can you find your story that keeps you in a sense of sovereignty and inner authority so that you're not being taken advantage of by the outer world? I love you all very much. Hope you have a beautiful week, and I will catch you next time. Peace.